Well, I had some help from my 12-year-old son today. Bob wasn't much help. Getting the sheet metal bolted on here. It's sure nice to have an extra hand to hold a wrench when your arms aren't long enough. So got everything tightened up, I think. Got the grill mounted in there, so looking pretty good. Still, I got to do the wiring, but it definitely looks a lot better sitting there. What I'm wrapping up on right at the moment is the vacuum canister, or the charcoal canister, or whatever they call it, for the fuel tank vent system. So this is where I mounted it. It's just down in there. Seemed like a pretty good spot out of the way. And then there's this little purge valve here. I just used some plumber's tape, or whatever you want to call that stuff, with all the holes in it to give it a good snug fit. And this thing's covered in rubber as a dampener, because I think that thing vibrates pretty good. It's just a little pump in there that purges it. I don't know how often it does that, or I don't know anything about that, but I might have to learn if it doesn't work or whatever. But it just purges the vacuum, or the charcoal canister, back into the intake, so that all the fumes from the fuel tank end up back in the engine and go out the exhaust as burnt fuel. So I don't have to have that, but it'll make the truck smell less like gasoline. So I don't see any reason why it hurts to have it. So I've went ahead and did that, but I had to run an extra line from the tank to the front and all that, which is how the factory Mustang had it set. So I think it should be fine like that. Now that I'm working on the taillights, I'm kind of wishing I'd ordered new buckets. These are pretty. Well, they're not very nice. As you can see, they've been pretty long in the tooth. This one here, I've got it back together, but the lens under here is broken. As you can see, there's a lens there, so it's used to illuminate the license plate. These aren't stock. I bought those years ago, and they never did fit the bucket. I just had it taped. I decided to go ahead and keep them, and I just used some shrink tube and secured it that way for now. It should be fine. It's not perfect looking, but I think it'll be fine. These were over here as well. Sorry, I took it off, but I had the brackets on here apparently years ago, just attached by this bottom tailgate bolt. The hinge there, that bolt goes all the way through, and I just had this secured with, let me see if we can do that, just had it secured with the one bolt down low. So I moved the other side up using both of those holes, thinking, well, I don't know why I didn't do that. Well, now that I'm on the other side, I understand why that bolt there's broke off, and there's a keeper inside there, so it's I guess you'd call it a blind nut. So I think what I'm going to try to do is spot weld a nut onto that broken bolt and see if I can't just get that out of there. That'd be kind of nice to adhere with, hook it back on with both bolts. If not, I can put it up here and go back to just holding it on with one bolt. That obviously worked fine for years. So, but I'm going to try to get that other one out. I don't know if I can show you, but down in this hole, I don't think it's, let me try my flashlight here, hold on. I don't think this is going to work very good. Right there you go, yeah, so right there you can see that blind nut way down at the bottom there, and that's not, and there's a cap on the bottom. See, one of those blind nut brackets has already been broke off. So I'll do my best to get it out of there. If not, I might be able to reach down there with something and knock that blind nut off. Then I can run a bolt maybe all the way through like I did on the bottom one. If you run a longer bolt that goes all the way out the other side. I can see why they didn't do that, because if you over tighten it, it'll start smashing this the whole corner piece in. It'll start pinching that whole thing. So having a nut on each side keeps that from happening. I guess what a guy could do is have a spacer put in between, but I'm not that concerned with it. So and we have these holes up here, so I could move the bracket up even higher, but again, the middle bolt here is the one that's broke off, so I'm kind of stuck with trying to fix it. If I want to use both bolts, like I said, I'm sure I can just use the one and be fine, but I might as well give it a bit of a try to get that broken one off, and we'll see if we can do that now. So I think this is working. I'm just working it back and forth really easy like this. Just a little bit at a time, just kind of trying a little bit harder, going back, trying a little bit harder. And I don't know if that's breaking the weld off or bringing the nut out. I think it's bringing the bolt out, but it was really tricky because that blind nut and the broke off nut wasn't grounding to the body. There was too much corrosion in between. So what I did is I stuck my real long blow nozzle here. I stuck it down into the hole, down into the tubing there, and used it to push up against the back of that and kind of wiggled it around, and that kind of helped fix it in place, but it still didn't work. So I actually built a tiny bit of weld from the body to that bolt, enough that it would break off once I welded it in the nut, and that seems to work. I'll have to clean that up a little bit with my flapper disc, whatever, to clean the weld off the sheet metal, but it was able to get me going in there, so I think this is actually going to work, surprisingly. By golly, she's coming out. I did spray a little bit of my acetone ATF 50/50 mix on it, and since it was still pretty warm, it let that penetrate in there real good, but it's coming right out now. So I really didn't think that was going to work. I just figured it was worth a try, so I'm very happy about that. It's not that this trick doesn't work, it just I don't know, about 50% of the time I end up making it worse, it seems like. So, but pretty happy with that. Okay, we got it out, and this is what it looks like. You can see there's just a hair of a bolt head. I didn't even weld it all the way, you know, I'd say for penetrate, or you know, for adhesion there, whatever you want to call that. That was pretty poor, but it was just enough. And when you weld on these two, the heat breaks a lot of that connection as well. So just the welding on that bolt does a lot to free it, and then it gives you something to grab onto. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I should be able to put the bracket back on where it's supposed to be. I just need to clean that off a little bit, but not a big deal. Now I'll run a thread chaser in that hole, one of these guys, and just make sure it's the threads of that blind nut are good and clean before I run the bolt back in. It'd probably be a good idea to put some Never Seez on it too, to keep it from seizing up next time, since water runs right down this and gets right onto those bolts. So happy with that. Check it out. We got tail lights and blinkers. Making good progress. Got the blue dots in there. Those look kind of cool from a distance if they don't get you pulled over by the police. Can't quite decide on which poverty caps I want to run on this thing. I found some more today that I'm going to maybe try out and see how I like them. But I started out with these original police interceptor style, but I only had 3 of them. A friend of mine thought he might had an extra one in his pile of junk, but he wasn't able to locate it. And you can buy them, but man, they're expensive now for some reason. They used to be on everything, and I guess supply and demand or something. So that's came in where I found these other ones. They're a brand new, made out of China. They took quite a while to get, but they were like $100 a set or something like that. It wasn't too bad shipped. And they're basically a duplicate of this, even though the police interceptors were never polished or chromed like that. But those do look nice. The problem I'm kind of seeing is that they almost look weird because they're super shiny, but nothing else on this truck is at the moment. So that's where these guys come in. I had an old, I got a 65 Cornet 4-door sitting out in the field that still had a set of these caps on it. Granted, it's got the Chrysler symbol in the metal, but most people don't even know what that is anymore. And I got, you know, it's got a Mopar rear axle, Mopar front end, so it isn't like and Mopar wheels, obviously, so it's not like it doesn't work on the truck. But I like the patina of it. They kind of go with the rest of the truck. So I think that's what I'm going to run for today, until I change my mind again. But it's a nice thing. I can pop them off as I see fit. But I think they look at home on there. We'll see once it gets outside how I like them. But the red rings faded out just like the truck, so I think that kind of works with it too. So anyway, not that it makes a difference one way or another, but That's the fun thing about these things, is tweaking stuff, and maybe they're never actually done. This one probably never will be. Stuff like this, you're always changing, modifying, making better for worse or whatever. I accidentally ordered the wrong pigtails for these front parking lights, so I ordered a cheap one that's just the socket with the rubber thing. So what I'm just doing temporarily is I've got a hose clamp on this side and a hose clamp on that side just to keep it in there, and so that seems to be tight enough to keep it grounded. But this will just be temporary, and I'll take it back apart. I'll either buy new sockets or maybe just buy these all new assemblies. I haven't decided, but this will work for the moment. It's ugly, but nobody's gonna see it, if it works anyway. Getting the front end wiring just about wrapped up. I've temped these park lights together. I was showing you the clamps there. And then that one I just kind of rigged together with some miscellaneous parts, but it works. But I'll figure out, or I'll order some stuff to replace them. They'll work for now. Everything else is going pretty smooth. I went ahead and used this wire loom stuff there. You can see to run everything. Protects the wires, and I'll get that kind of fastened out of the way once this side over here is done. But nothing exciting. Everything I've tested so far is working, so all except for the one last headlight, which these headlights have been in here for who knows how long. But that one over there worked fine, so we'll see if we end up with 100% everything working until I hit a bump and these park lights stop working. But it is what it is. I've not had a glove box spring on this truck ever since I've owned it. I didn't have one when I got it, didn't know where to get one, so I used to just have a little piece of metal under here that I had screwed under the dash. I would just slide that piece of metal over and it would hold the glove box closed, which that worked fine. But I swear every time somebody got in here, they wanted to pull down on this and look in the glove box, and it would always bend that bracket. So I finally ordered a spring for it, and I wasn't sure how it installed. But so I wanted to show you guys in case your truck doesn't have one and you need to put a spring in it. It goes on this little bracket right here, and you can see there's a little tab on the inside. Let me see if I can get my finger in there. So there's a little tab right down in there. You can kind of see the spring hook to it, and then it hooks to this other part of the. Let me get behind it, it'll be easier to see. Hooks on the top of that. So now it closes, but even with the new spring on it, it doesn't stay closed. So what I've done is I've just added one of those little, I don't know, rare earth magnet things or something. That one actually came out of an old computer hard drive. So I've just stuck that there, and that allows it to pull up nice and tight. There we go. So before, without this, well, I'll show you. If I take that off of there and close it, it's just, I'm gonna hit a bump and that thing's gonna open. So I don't have an answer for that yet. I would think that a new spring was gonna fix that, but it didn't. So I've got this, and this fixes that. So that closes nice. I think every time I pull it out, that magnet's probably gonna move around. I might end up gluing it on there. Yeah, I see it did it there, but that's fine. That makes me happy. So now I've got a glove box that's shut. Kind of dig that. So that might be helpful to somebody. Probably not. So I started this project August 23rd, 2020. I don't think I started putting videos on YouTube till December, but technically it's been just a hair over a year. Today's August 28th. So my goal was to have this thing driving on the street by August, so we're just barely making it, although we've got a lot to do. Still a good landmark for me, I think. So Hudson and I are getting ready to, Hudson's my 12-year-old, our youngest son. We've got a 16 and a 12-year-old, and we're getting ready to go out for a little cruise. We'll see if we can film some of it and take you guys along for a little bit of a ride. If it works out, I don't know if it's gonna be too shaky camera or not, but we'll give it a little try, or give it a try rather, and see if we can make that work.